Wow, man. I don't even know what I can say to describe this. Favorite episode of the series thus far.
Hunter x Hunter episode 47, Condition and Condition.
Oh, boy. Man. Woo. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and hunters and nen users of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jimmy, had to bring you another review on the awesome and the action-packed, the thrilling, oh man, the fights in this tale of Hunter x Hunter are just second to none. Second to none. The last episode left us with, Kurapika and Uvo coming face to face and, basically just talking a bit of shit to each other. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I understand that Uvo was wrapped up in the chains when he was taken by surprise, but he was also paralyzed and everything else. So I was thinking, how much could Kurapika have actually learned in that 6-month span, about Nen and everything else, right? And apparently a lot. This entire episode, for the most part, with the exception of a couple minutes at the beginning and a couple minutes at the end, is all just straight up the battle between these two. They go out into the middle of the desert, and Uvo goes and pisses out the leeches or whatever, drinks another beer, and then he kind of, asks Kurapika, like, yeah, what is it that you want? Who are you? That type of deal. And then Kurapika asks him and says, do you remember everyone you kill? And he says, no, just some of them, so the ones that make an impression on me. And the basic idea and behind it is that he doesn't feel anything, and that's what he comes out with. He's this cold-hearted killer. He doesn't feel anything, right? So anyway, Kurapika tries to go and remind him about the Kurta and this clan and the 5 years ago and everything else, and he's like, I don't even remember him, but you know what? I was with the Phantom Troop 5 years ago, so I must have been involved in the slaughter, the bloodshed, and whatnot, right? So anyway, the shit starts to hit the fan, and Kurapika goes and busts out. I mean, the animation in this this episode is beautiful. I mean, I think it was even better than episode 35 or 36, or 35 and 36 were going faced off against Hisoka. The way he's jumping around and whipping these chains out, and Uvo's dodging them, and he's boulders exploding and just bedrock and dust coming up everywhere. And then he winds up going, and Uvo's thinking in his mind, he's like, you know what, these chains are pretty damn powerful, and like they just feel like they have this like different type of Nen aura, what have you, coming off of them. I have to strike first. So he goes and charges in and, and remember this guy's got this crazy legendary, like, just destroy whatever strength, right? And he goes and Kurapika blocks it with his left arm, and then goes flying back, and he's like, yeah, it's like, that was impressive, but now his arm must be crushed and everything else. Kurapika comes out of it and is just like, moving his arm just fine, right? So he's starting to freak. He's thinking, man, what the hell, dude? Like, I thought you were like a conjurer or something, but you have these enhancer abilities. What the hell is the deal? That's what he's thinking. So Kurapika goes and he's just like, I love this shit, man, because he just goes and he's like, is that the best you got? And he's trying to egg him on, trying to talk to him. He's like, no, that was only 20% of my strength. And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Why don't you give me the best you got? So he goes and he's like, no, this time I'll use half. Goes to come at him, and Kurapika goes and disappears, comes up behind him and just BAM! Nails him, right? Then comes up at, out of the air and just kicks him across the side of the head, and he's getting batted around like a rag doll. Now, granted, this dude's still superhumanly strong, so it isn't like these are putting him down or anything, but but Kurapika's making some, certainly some contact on these hits, right? So anyway, then he goes and he's like, and Kurapika goes and tries to pull him in again, basically by saying, hey, why don't you stop playing around and wasting my time and give me your best, right? So he's like, oh, you want my best? Okay, here. So he goes and he slams the ground, and it causes like all this, like basically like a smoke screen, right? And Kurapika's like, oh man, I can't sense. He's like hidden his presence. And obviously the smoke, he's hidden his aura and his presence, for me to be able to sense him, but also physically I can't see him because of the smoke. So at the last second, as he appears behind to go and just jack up with a full power big bang blast, like he had used a few episodes ago on Worm, one of those those shadow beasts or what have you. He goes in, boom, hits that left arm, and Kurapika gets it up right in time, just to block. But this time, that full force punch goes in and shatters the arm, you know. Kurapika goes and jumps back and you know, is up on this ledge and whatnot, and goes, hey, that's pretty impressive, you know, you were able to use in, and you're able to use that, you know, to make the smoke screen and then disguise your presence and everything else. But then, this is the kicker, right? All of a sudden, he goes and holds out his right hand, and it shows it, and it appears that he had the chains wrapped around him, and as he was going and pulling him in to go and want to fight him and getting him to attack, he was actually going and using these chains, they were invisible, and wrapping them around his body, right? And that's what I love, is just like this, the amazing amount of detail and preparation that goes into these fights, and just how everything was thought out beforehand, right? So there's a number of different explanations to the chains themselves actually are infused or have Zetsu, so it winds up nullifying his aura. So the only way you can actually break the chains is by just using like straight up physical power, physical prowess, you know. So he goes and he tries to, you know, just tries to hulk up, muscle up, still can't do it, still can't break him, you know. And then there winds up being this cool little flashback that takes us to that point that we saw several episodes ago, where that teacher, the teacher that we never found out his name, the one that wound up teaching Kurapika in the forest, you know, about Nen and everything else. When we had left them last time, Kurapika was going to do the chains, but he was basically saying you can't use chains, you can't make unbreakable ones, you can't conjure. There's no point in it, right? Kurapika was just walking away. It takes us right to that point. And at that point, when he was walking away, this dude still went and wound up, you know, they finished the conversation. The conversation was basically that, hey, listen, you can create ones that are almost unbreakable, but then he explains about how you got to set the rule. You have to have some sort of rule in place. So that's when Kurapika says, I'm only going to use them to ensnare. I'm going to only use them to ensnare Phantom Troop members, but they can't break them. They cannot break them. And the rule is that I'm going to go and put my life on the line. So if I try to go and use them for any purpose other than that, I will die. So that's kind of like the sacrifice, the give or take, to actually make that enchantment or whatever you want to call it actually work, right? So it winds up going, okay, so that's cool. So he learned all that stuff and learned what's going on. And then as Kurapika goes and gets all angry and uses, you know, and the scarlet eyes come out and everything, all of a sudden the dude's like, hey, we better test you again and see, you know, your aura is crazy coming off you, right? So this was the kicker for me, right? It comes back out of the little flashback and everything like that, and Kurapika goes and, you know, goes and pulls out the contacts to show that obviously he's a Kurta, he's got the scarlet eyes, and Uvo's just like, oh, now I remember, the boss really liked your eyes and this and that, you know, you're pretty strong, put up a good fight. But what comes out is the explanation. Kurapika turns into a specialist when his eyes get red, when he gets the scarlet eyes, right? Becomes a specialist, and his special ability is he has 100% mastery over all 6 of the ability trees, I guess you would call them, right? So he goes and just goes, like, pulls out this magical holy chain or whatever that goes and just completely wraps around his broken, shattered arm and just heals it, right? And Uvo is now shitting bricks. He's just like, are you kidding me? He just went and shattered, or I just shattered his arm and I just healed it like it was nothing, you know? Oh my God, I'm just thinking, you have got to be kidding me, right? So as the episode goes on, now that Uvo is kind of at the point where he's realizing, oh geez, I'm fucked, you know, he still doesn't give an inch as far as trying to give up, beg for his life, anything like that. And then Kurapika goes and starts just jacking him up, right, with these like Nen aura infused punches that he uses to punch through his iron-like body. And I mean, if every one, there's just like blood spurting everywhere. I mean, it's graphic, right? So this dude will not give up any information. Finally, Kurapika is getting pissed off and goes and does this holy chain of something and it wraps around his heart, right? And he's like, and he explains, I'm going to put a condition on this. You're going to answer my questions, otherwise the knife at the end of this is going to pierce your heart and you'll be dead, right? And the whole time, this dude was basically just spitting in his face and saying, screw you, kill me, go ahead, kill me, right? So you think that finally maybe he'd give up some kind of information, because Kurapika just wants to know where the other Phantom Troop members are. And he explains, too, the reason that he chose Uvo as a target. When he fight those shadow beasts, he understood and he figured if he's the strongest of the Phantom Troop members, and if he attacks him and he can't break his chains, none of the other ones will be able to. They'll be able to hold any one of the members, you know. So this was out in advance by Kurapika and just beautifully done. So anyway, he goes in, you know, he says, okay, and so he asks him the question one last time, and then he goes, says, yeah, screw you, die, whatever, right? And then all of a sudden, that thing pierces him, his heart, you know, gets pierced or whatever, dude just falls down, and And never have I seen, I mean, I usually don't really feel bad for like the enemy or whatever. Kurapika just owned him so badly, and he just got slapped around like a little bitch so badly. And Kurapika is just so insane with this ability. Now is probably my favorite character in the series, just because of the ability to do this, not only with the chains and everything else, but being able to go, and when you get pissed off and the eyes turn scarlet, to be able to use and have complete mastery over any one of the of a conjurer, of an enhancer, oh my god, of a manipulator. It's just fantastic, right? So anyway, as the episode ends and he goes and he buries him and whatnot, he's gonna move on to the next one. They go and they show us Krollo, the boss of the Phantom Troop, and they're, it's later on at night, and they're like, hey, he hasn't got back yet. If he's not here by the morning, we'll have to make a change of plans, and explains, basically to the effect of that Uvo is very strong physically, but he's very weak to certain types of abilities from like conjurers or enhancers, manipulators. I think he says, I'm sorry, conjurers or manipulators, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I thought it was very cool. All the descriptions and everything that's broken down, from the Zetsu to the In to the, just everything is so masterfully done in this, that, man, this is one that's going to be really hard once I do catch up here in the next month or two, to wait every week, man. I can see where the hype is going. The hype is real, people. Believe it. So, awesome episode. Episode question, though, for you brothers and sisters is, what were your thoughts on Kurapika and just how he owned this battle? I mean, I thought that it was going to actually be a hard-fought battle and that Uvo would have a chance. After seeing everything get explained, Uvo didn't have a chance at all. And Kurapika went and planned all this, knew that this guy was more of a loner and a one-on-one type of fighter, so knew that he'd have a better chance of being able to piss him off and break him off from the pack, and nobody actually to go and back him up, because he is very much a lone wolf, man. Just fucking fantastic! Let me know what your answer is to the question, though, brothers and sisters, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
So you follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and my other channel, okay?